understanding security in terms of coexistence and relationships around which, regardless of differences of opinion, of political alliances, regardless of whether people are Muslim or Christian, security begins with a very basic concept of how do we live together, even if we disagree on many issues.
And so the first effect of terrorism, not even the counter-terrorism, the first effect of terrorism is that it's created a genuine fear among civilians, and civilians don't know how to protect themselves anymore. And so they're looking at anything that government can do to protect them. And it is being played out in forms of laws, is being played out in forms of legislative measures, of policies, all of which seem to be well-intentioned, but then the way that they're being implemented are themselves becoming very, very difficult for the civil society within the continent to do their work.
I think terrorism has to be fought, and governments have a legitimate right to do that, and that needs the support of civil society and ordinary people. But it has to be done within a framework of rule of law and within the principles of human rights.
So no amount of counter-terrorism laws and no amount of arrests is ever going to change ideologies. And I think we have all seen that for the last 10 years in which we have been having these counter-terrorism measures.
The issue that is important at this point is that it's important for everybody to try and demilitarize the issues around the civil society political space. The counter-terrorism measures are such a preserve to the states, but more so to the armed forces. And that creates a lot of fear, which is the fourth freedom, as we know. And if this affects the humans themselves, then everybody should get engaged in it.
We need to engage this member state, we, the UN, and us, civil society, on how we really address this situation. Let's look at it from a very objective perspective. Why, okay, so there's tension, there's a conflict, and why are you framing it as terrorism, and why we see it differently?
Civil society comes in precisely because of the fact that it is the people in villages and in communities who have the first-hand knowledge and the first-hand alert or signs of what they are about to see. And so it's in the interest of government to collaborate with civil society in order that they are effective in counter-terrorism initiatives. The people you want to protect, let them be active participants on how they are protected.
I think that you can't just rely on the UN level engagement. I believe in multi-level engagement, one that actually starts with and impacts back or returns to the community. Because ultimately, if you're talking about what is the UN there for, it's not just there for the member states, but the citizens of those states.
I think the kind of networking that we are doing here in trying to develop a kind of a global response to this counter-terrorism measures, I think are extremely important. This meeting has been able to bring in people who are working very seriously in their own situation, who also have a global perspective, and the way we have analyzed the situation here, I think is extremely, will be very, very useful.
If we want to be very effective in counter-terrorism, we must define it as how are we preventing. And the reason is because if people are aware that their governments are collaborating with them to prevent attacks on them, then they develop a keen interest of being active participants in counter-terrorism. And it's in the interest, therefore, of the governments to work with civil society organizations in these preventive efforts.